If you want to find out more about my collaborator today, the Great Mattsby at Matthews13, he's one of the best technical analysts to have the pleasure to meet on X. A lot of free videos. He focuses on stock, crypto, forex. He posts a lot of these different videos talking about Tesla, talking about Bitcoin, talking about altcoins. They're all very, very informative. If you want to go beyond like your usual RSI or MACD, you want to get into a little bit more of about math, angles, and averages for his technical analysis, follow him. If you like what you're seeing, you can also consider doing a subscription plan, which is available pinned under his X profile. On top of that, he also just recently started a YouTube channel. It's at TGM Trading, and he can probably use more subscribers because I think he does great work. So hey everyone, hey it's Cantonese Cat here. I'm with Matt. We
Hey
just wanted to
guys.
do a little bit of collaboration here, trying to see, we've talked a lot on comments and things like that, but we haven't actually had a chance to have a conference meet until today. So I want to talk about a few things. Matt, what do you want to talk about?
Well, the most common thing that we see on X is Tesla and how everybody's panicking recently about it's just going to collapse.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Yeah, so I see that you pulled the weekly chart right here. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Well, like when I do my analysis, usually I always start with just the momentum. And I like to think of like the 8 and the 21 EMA as like the momentum indicators here. And my 8 is the green line and the 21 is the orange line there. And usually if price is above, the 8, it's a good momentum thing like you can see here. And if it gets below, then it's a loss of momentum like you see currently. And just recently we had a close below it here. And so it looks like another loss of momentum. So it'll be interesting to see how things do open up next week and whatnot. And then after that, I do pull up my moving averages, the 50, the 100, and the 200. The green is the 50, the blue is the 100, purple is 200. But since they're way up here, you don't really need to use them because they're kind of irrelevant at this point. So usually I don't use indicators if they're really far away from price. So I can just turn those off. And lastly, I see you use it all the time too, is the Ichimoku. And usually, as you know, we both know that when price is below the cloud and the cloud is red over here in the future, then that's a bearish indicator. And the baseline, or you use the Japanese words, I use the English words, but that's fine. And yeah, the conversion line and the baseline, they're also support and resistance. And usually if price is kind of far away from the cloud or whatever, I disregard that and then just focus on what price is near. And you can see price just closed really close to the conversion line at the bottom. And so that's basically how I use these indicators. And then if you wanted to jump into the Gann, I can do that as well.
I mean, just basically looking at the moving averages and looking at Ichimoku Cloud, like what are your thoughts on Tesla so far?
Well, I just posted a video on X about my weekly update, and what I really think right now is it's just still ranging. Like it did
Yeah.
finally on the weekly chart, it did finally close this gap, so I think that's a good positive.
Yeah.
And what I mentioned in my video is like you see the price here is basically it's touching a lot of these candles, right? Where it
Yeah.
closed at right here. So this identifies as a strong demand zone. So it could go down a little bit lower, maybe to like the 160s or so, the low 160s or the high 150s. But this should be a pretty strong demand zone in my opinion. And we'll see how next week can open and see how it can close.
So you imagine the gap close is going to at least serve, even though you lose a little bit of momentum in the moving average, you imagine the gap close probably is going to serve as somewhat of a support, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And mainly because if you want to go to again, I can show you like what I usually show on X. We can talk about that.
Yeah, if you don't mind pulling it up. Yeah, and also like to
Yeah.
know kind of how you set up the GAN as well.
Well, there's two different versions of it. There's one on the linear scale and there's one on the log scale. And the one on the linear scale is sometimes a little more accurate, but essentially, this is the one on the log scale. If price is following a log scale chart, then that kind of proves that it's a little more exponential, right? And if you can go back to the beginning of Tesla, and this is the log scale chart, and you can just see how it respects the angles, it respects the horizontal lines. Let me get that line off. And it respects this horizontal line, and it respects the arcs. Like
Yeah.
what we're seeing now is almost identical to what happened back in 2015 and 2016, right?
Hmm.
Like price was on this orange line. It went up to the bottom arc for a while, it did a V bottom, and then went up to the top arc and then broke above, just like right now. It's going on this blue line right here, and then it broke to the bottom
Yeah.
arc for a while, V bottom, and now it's on the top arc. So it's almost identical to what's happening here. But the way to set it up is kind of intricate, and I don't think we have enough time, but I do have a course on X about how to set it up, because it is pretty detailed and it's not just random. You have to make sure that everything is symmetrical. So
Is there any particular reason, like it's a stock like Tesla, it just keeps on looking like it's going to roll over, but it doesn't? Like, is it one of the
yeah.
reasons why Gann might work better for this?
Yeah, and especially on log scale, like what we see, the pattern is once a level
Yeah.
or an arc get flipped to support, then it doesn't really look back, right?
Yeah.
And so what we see right now when I zoom in is, let me bring my little arrow with me. We can see that it's looking like this top arc is trying to flip to support. And we even see right here, when we zoom in more, that it didn't even backtest this arc yet, right? It's
Yeah.
still right here. And what that really means is we can probably open up next week lower and probably close this gap of the arc and wick through. So that's what I'm thinking. Probably next week we'll open lower. And if you see these weekly candles here, the lows are in the low 160s, right? So if we drew a line like right there, that would probably be where we would get to next week, and that would touch this wick, that wick, and all these wicks over here as well, right? So
Mhm.
that's my thought process, that this arc is going to be successfully back tested before we move higher. So it's looking more and more likely that probably the 160s, the low 160s or upper 150s will get hit first, right?
Yeah.
And if we go to the linear scale version of this right here,
Mhm.
it's not really that beneficial yet, because it's just in the middle of a range. It's in between the orange angle here and the blue angle here. But when we had earnings, we saw this big bullish candle right here
Mhm.
close back above this orange angle. So this is my ultimate support level on linear scale. And the reason why I like linear scale, because it makes everything more symmetrical. And when you use Gann square, you want a perfect square. And the only way you can have a perfect square is on linear scale, because on log scale, it's more exponential, and you cannot have a perfect square on log scale. So, and I teach all that in my course as well. But essentially, what I'm looking at as max pain is a retest of this angle right here, which could be maybe 151 or even wick through down to the high 140s, just a successful backtest of that. So if like things get really bearish, I think this could get hit. But if things stay moderate, okay, then the log scale will be fine, and this level will probably hold in the low 160s.
So, I think both you and I are thinking that we bought them a couple of weeks ago. And your rationale for doing that, was it more based on where you're looking at the key angle support line there on Gann? So was it because of other indicators that you're seeing as well?
Yeah, well, mainly when you look at log scale Gann, price, when an angle or an arc or a line become like a support zone, it
Mhm.
usually acts as a magnet, right? So when
Mhm.
price got all the way down here, it got really far away from the arc, and I'm like, there's no way it's going to go just straight down. It's going to go gravitate back to the arc. So that's why I was like, earnings, this is probably the support, and many people are selling the bottom. So that was my thought process there. And when also you looked on the fibs for log scale fibs, my thought process was confirming from the high to the low here that the 236 right here
Yeah.
should hold, right?
Yeah.
And on linear scale, it already lost that 236, but here it was 141. So I'm like, you know what? There's so many confluences, like that's so far away from the arc. It's holding the 236. Like this thing is going to go higher, right? That was my thought process of why this is the bottom. And also, I believe that no matter what, this should hold for the future now, right? And if you go back in time here, you can see how much of a demand zone this area is anyways too, right? So I believe, yeah, I'm pretty confirmed to myself that this is the bottom, yeah. I have the conviction.
Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome. I mean, it's multiple confluences, and also just do you incorporate volume into your analysis as well?
Yeah, I do. I do have like a volume profile thing here, and I see like the volume shelves, and I see
Yeah,
like there's really no volume here, so it's so easy for price to go down and go back up, right?
yeah,
For that volume shelf. And actually right now there is a pretty good volume shelf right there as well. So
it's support.
which
Yeah,
yeah, as support. So that's why I'm thinking like we're gonna probably let me get that off. We're probably going to close this gap for the arc next week. So we'll probably open lower,
yeah,
but we might even end the week back up above this 382.
yeah,
So we'll keep an eye on that log scale 382 level.
yeah. And if you look at the volume through time too, I think there's also like this whole down leg recently has been on declining volume too. So just thought that
Yeah.
was it was a little bit interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. This like there's a lot of volume right here. Then it
Right.
was kind of
Yeah.
steadily
It's
going
just kind
down.
of slowly going down. So I think like the whole down move is actually relatively low conviction. So
Exactly.
yeah. No, it's awesome. What do you think about Ichimoku Cloud? It was right underneath of it on the weekly. Like, do you think it's gonna serve as resistance? Do you think it's gonna push through? I mean, like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, like there's the confluence of this blue line,
Yeah.
of this baseline, of the bottom of the cloud, the leading span B. There's so much resistance in there. And I don't know if you saw my X post about Tesla about that 3.618 as resistance. Did you see
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly at the 200 level too. It's like
Yeah. It's a lot of
there's
confluence
so
there.
much, yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many confluence that this is going to be a massive resistance level. So maybe it's going to take a few more times to go up and test it, and then maybe on the third time or so it'll just break through. But it's good to see that the cloud is thin here, but it's getting thicker and thicker, which it shows
Yeah.
a downward trend, so it's not good. But yeah, there's basically lots of support down here, lots of resistance up here, so it's just stuck in a range. Like no matter what the news narrative is, this is just a range.
Yeah. So traders are going to probably be very happy for the next month or two. Is what you're trying to say.
Well, you already can see it, and I think
Yeah.
on CNBC that guy was saying how short he is on Tesla, and he's just adding to his shorts and stuff. It's like the narrative on the news is just so negative again. It's like it's like clockwork.
Yeah. No, it's cool. Thank you for showing all this. I think it's very helpful. Do you want to go through another ticker real quick? And I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe
What?
yeah. You want to look at Bitcoin?
Okay. Yeah, we'll go look at Bitcoin here.
Yeah. Seems to be a more popular thing people talk about. So
Yeah. All right. So there's the Bitcoin here. And yeah, we can obviously see why it's not breaking higher. It's stuck
mhm.
below the conversion line, right? And essentially, this is resistance, this is support. So this is also in a range, right? But what I really mentioned before about Bitcoin is that Fibonacci. Let me just see if I can pull it up here real quick from the previous cycle.
Man, you have to Gann to draw it all the way up from
Yeah.
from history too. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's the
That's
best way because the most accurate for Gann is the data, and if
that's
there's
yeah.
more historical data, then you're gonna have more accuracy,
And
right?
looking at your fib level too, there's a lot of confluence, like all the support, all resistance levels are all
Yeah,
there. That's pretty amazing.
yeah. The fib levels. Oh wait, I didn't draw it from that range. I drew it from here, the top of here. See, we can see on. Oh, this is log scale. I think I had it on linear scale, but it works on log scale too.
Yeah.
That this 1.618 on log scale is
Yeah.
kind of holding as a support zone,
I
right? It's
I
close.
love it.
It's close.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's closed every single weekly candle above it, right? And it's the same on linear scale, which is the 3.618, but it works on log scale exactly the same. So my idea is on log scale, it's going to close probably above 61,584 again, right? It's
Hmm.
probably just, oh, maybe it'll go down for tomorrow, whatever, just scare more people. But on Sunday night, it'll probably just go back up and close above. So this is my reasoning why it's really not going to break down further. It's because it's proven that every single wick below has
Hmm.
closed back above so far. And like I always say, the trend is your friend. So yeah.
Do you think that all these wicks though is gonna end up, knocking a lot of demand underneath, and next thing you know, it might end up falling over? Because I've never seen so many like hammered bottom candles all at once within like the span of 8 weeks. I've never seen that for the history of Bitcoin or anything that I can find.
Yeah. Well, there's still a lot of support here. Like if you
Yeah.
can see price right now, it's really in a strong demand zone just in this area,
Yeah.
just from the previous all-time high ranges. So I think that's why we're seeing these wicks because of the strong demand zone here. And like, so this is the log scale chart, and you can already see it flip this arc as support because this successful wick back test right there, and then it just took off, right?
Hmm.
That's what I'm waiting for Tesla to do too, just finally wick to the arc and then take off. I don't know when that'll happen, but maybe someday. But if we go on another linear scale chart for Bitcoin here, this is another confluence as well, right?
Hmm.
We can see that this bottom arc has basically flipped to support. So worst case, I see it going back down to maybe 57, 58,000, but I
Hmm.
still think this week is probably going to close above those levels. And then maybe next week we'll go have more scares, and then it'll just still stay as support on this arc until it's ready to break higher. And we can see some things here that look how perfect this blue angle was for support, right, for the Gann. And look
Yeah.
at like the orange, so perfect, and the red and the gray was really perfect. And you can really see why the cycle top was where it was last time. It hit
Hmm.
exactly the orange line and like
Hmm.
almost to the dollar basically. And this is like you could have drew this a long time ago. And if we were right here, like, oh, maybe to go back up. And usually when you see something like this, you see that it gets rejected here, then it loses this angle, gets rejected there, then this is a good indicator that it's a cycle top, because this is the green is the 45-degree angle, which is the most important angle on the Gann. And when you get rejected at levels and this angle, then you probably don't want to be in that coin or stock anymore.
So looking at the GANs, you're basically just kind of stuck between the two curves right there. Um,
Yeah.
but you would assume that it probably end up hitting the bottom of the curve again if it gets there because of the other confluences that you're seeing in support. And your suspicion is that it's probably going to bounce from here and
Yeah,
probably going to hit the
I think
angle
it's
again.
Yeah, I think it's going to probably close around 62. Like Sunday night, it'll probably do the weekly close, maybe 62, 63,000 up in this area. And then maybe when the new weekly candle opens, we'll probably go lower again and retest levels, scare people, and then close higher again. That's been the trend. I mean, the trend
Yeah.
is you can see opens here, goes lower, like opens here, goes lower, open here, go like so many times.
Yeah.
So that is the trend so far. And until that breaks, is it's not going to go higher until that breaks that trend.
Yeah. And it looks like the 45-degree angle is just right above, so that's probably going to be the target if it breaks above.
Yeah, and the next weekly candle would be here, and if it did do that, that would be like a 78,000. But as you can see, it's going to be resistance because it's already been resistance.
Yeah.
So this huge zone is still resistance until it breaks above. But the ultimate target, if you go higher and higher, is the next blue line up here, which would be 138, 140. And if that ever broke, then it would just go higher to the 200,000s as well,
Jeez.
right? Yeah.
But the next big resistance level is probably going to be at the 45-degree angle, then you would imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but a lot
Yeah.
of times you'll know when it breaks because so many times when levels break, you get
Yeah.
like a big a bullish engulfing candle. So if we had a big bullish engulfing candle that closed way above it, then you would know this has been flipped to support. And any successful back test of it would be a buy opportunity for it to go higher.
What's the probability that this is the top based on what you're looking at? Is there a way for you to look at Gann's and kind of tell you that, hey, it looks like it still has some juice? Like, does it tell you anything about, potential momentum or anything? Or what else do you use to try and figure out whether or not we're topped or not?
If we have topped, what would make me do that is if this arc got lost as support and it went down and came back up to test it as resistance, then get
Okay.
rejected, then I would be like, okay, that was a top. But so far, if it's holding an arc, whether it's a bottom arc, whether it's a top arc as support, then it's going to be support until confirmed otherwise, until proven otherwise, right? But either way, like, even if it lost that, if this blue angle, we can see how much support it would. So the next buy opportunity would be a strong buy in this area right here, right? So just because it lost this, it doesn't mean the whole thing's over, because market structure is still very bullish, right? Like the next higher low is way down here in like 39,000, right? So there's still a long ways it could fall and still maintain a bullish market structure.
Which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, but since, like, with the way I think about Gann, it's just pricing symmetry on a
Hmm.
chart, and every chart has symmetry, and you can even see, like, back here in 2017, that was resistance and now flip support. It's like you can do this with any growth asset. Like, if
Yeah.
a chart keeps making lower lows, you can't really use Gann because that's not really a growth asset anymore. But any growth asset, the chart is going to be symmetrical, especially on linear scale. And all these angles, they're equidistant from each other. Even if they don't look like they're equidistant, they are, right, throughout space and time. And I think really charts are more symmetrical than any news narrative, than anything else out there. And it just tells the story. Like, just looking at this chart, would you be bearish on Bitcoin? No, I don't think you would.
Yeah, it just looks like it's just basically breaking one angle and then back testing it and then go up higher to the next angle.
Yeah,
That's what it's been doing throughout the entire history. So
yeah,
fascinating.
exactly.
Yeah. Is
And
there a way?
actually,
Sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was asking, is there a way for you to kind of tell where the cycle starts and where the cycle ends based on gains? Like, is there any like approximate markers or anything that
Yeah,
you
well,
can
when
use?
we go back to log, when we go back to log scale here,
Yeah.
let me just take off this fib. So I like to think of like cycle tops as maybe like levels, really.
Hmm.
So we can see, and it's just the same as Tesla too. It's the exact same with levels, right? So the first cycle top, I thought it would be this orange, but it turned out to be the blue line here, going all the way across, right?
Hmm.
And then the next cycle top was the green line all the way across, right? And we saw this with Tesla. I can go back and show you if you want, which really means that the next cycle top could be this green line up here, which is 175,000, right?
Hmm.
So that usually the levels on log scale, not linear scale, identify cycle tops. And let me just go back to Tesla real quick, just so I can show you the similarities. Like Bitcoin and Tesla, they have so many similarities. It's kind of crazy. Cycle top right here, orange line.
Yeah.
Next cycle top, blue
Yeah.
line. And the next cycle top is at 2,800 up here,
But do you
right?
think it's gonna end up doing a very similar thing from like 2017 to 2019 again, based
Yeah.
on just how symmetry? Like, what are your thoughts on another painful 2 or 3 years of Tesla?
Yeah, well, if it's anything like this is
Yeah,
not a good scenario, because we saw a break above, but it was
yeah,
just a fake out only to retest these levels, right? And
yeah.
that happened December of 2016, and then just 3 years later. So that would not be good if it just came up and then went all the way back down to retesting, right? So, but the trend is, you can see the vertical lines. Every
Mhm.
vertical line almost identified the cycle top as well, right? So the
Yeah.
next vertical line is January of 27, which would be right up here at like 2,800, right?
Well,
So
yeah.
if these vertical lines are acting as the around, not exactly, but it's around, right?
Yeah.
Like around here, around here. Here was like a little bit after, right? The cycle top after the blue line going down. So it could be anywhere from maybe like late 2026 to maybe late 2027 for that cycle top, really.
Interesting.
But I don't want to see this rollover happen here because that would be a bad thing. But the whole idea of using these exponential charts for Gann is these levels identify the cycle top, really. So that's what I'm thinking for Tesla, 2,800. But it even went a little bit above, so it's possible to go to like 5,000 or so, you know. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think last time it was almost like, hey, time's running out. We just got to catch up and run to the next level. So he just did it in like a year and a
Oh
half,
yeah,
2 years. Yeah.
yeah,
So
like right here, just shut up. Yeah,
yeah. So I wonder whether or not we've just been consolidating here for like, 2, 3 years and just to maybe it's slower this time, but it might get to like, 2, 3,000 over a matter of, a couple of years.
yeah,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. It's fascinating, man.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Do you going back to Bitcoin, sorry to kind of mix between the two, like do you see anything on the other
Yeah,
indicators that kind of strike you as something interesting?
for Bitcoin.
Yeah, like the Ichimoku cloud or anything else that kind of, strike you as something that's kind of interesting to think about as confluences or, wherever it is that caught your eye.
Well, the only thing is, it's the reason why it's not breaking out is because of this blue
Yeah.
conversion line,
Yeah.
and once it closes a weekly candle above that, like 65,147 or so, then it'll take off. But until then, this is just stuck in a range. So I'm not really seeing anything negative on this chart at all, and nothing really stands out. But the only thing is this arc is confirmed as support, which
Mhm.
means when that happens, it gravitates to the next level, and the next level is a possible cycle top of 175,000.
Wow. Okay.
So, but we know also if that gets flipped to support, it could go to the blue arcs, which would be like 500,000,
Stop
maybe
it.
even 600,000,
Stop it.
maybe even to the next level, 2 million, right? Yeah.
Stop it.
Okay.
Yeah, because CPI is going to be like 1%. So that's what. No, I
Yeah. It'll be some negative news narrative, but we can see how so much negativity out there in the world. We can see the strength of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like it's better than any asset class really right now. It's maintaining this level as support really, really strongly. And to be bearish on this chart would be a mistake. And anytime it goes below 60,000 again, would be definitely a good buy-in opportunity.
What do you say about those people who are calling for like 52K and 48K, things like that? What would you say to them?
I think the market structure is too strong.
Okay.
Like if even if you don't use the GAN or you don't use anything else, like you can see how strong the market structure is, and it's just proving that there's lots and lots of strength. And there's been so many attempts to break it down, but it cannot break down.
And what about the thought that, the more it tries to test something as support, the weaker support gets?
Well, I think that's true if you get a big bearish engulfing candle. Like if
Yeah.
this happened to be bearish engulfing,
Yeah.
then yeah, I would be a little bit concerned. But all these wicks, these hammer candles or whatever you want to call them, they
Yeah.
are showing lots of demand in this zone, lots
Yeah.
of demand.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
the only thing I would get concerned is if this candle or if any future candle had a big bearish engulfing candle like below a certain level, then I would start to get worried.
Hey man, thanks for answering all these questions I have for you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I think we only have like another 5 minutes or so. We don't have to use up the time, but is there any other things that you'd like to talk about, either Tesla, Bitcoin, or anything else?
Well, I think you wanted to ask me about like RSI and MACD and
Yeah, what are
stuff,
your
right?
thoughts? Like, why don't you use like RSI or MACD? Like, do you have like a personal vendetta against it or like?
No, I Secretively, I actually have it here, right?
Okay. But you said you
But
didn't use it.
I don't. I should clarify that I don't rely on it, right?
I see. I
Just
see.
because you can see like so
Yeah.
many kind of like convergences and divergences all the time. Like
Yeah.
here was a divergence of the MACD, but price still was in an upward
Yeah.
trend, right? So you can't really rely on that. And like here, oh, there's a huge bearish
Yeah.
divergence right there, right? So we're going to go lower because the MACD on Bitcoin is red now and it's crossing. But we've seen that so many times before, and we've seen like bullish crosses that are fake outs, and the same with the RSI as well, right? We see sometimes things can stay oversold for a long time, and they can stay overbought for a long time, and it's not really that good of an indicator to use.
Yeah. I think I hate MACD on the weekly time frame the most because that usually is like it's not fast enough to actually catch anything. It's like way too slow. It's like delayed. So I hate weekly MACD. If I ever look at MACD, which I never do, I would like either look at like daily or monthly. I never look at weekly. It's just like it's absolutely horrible. And for the
Yeah.
RSI, I would probably use it more for like looking at for divergences and things like that. I don't know if you like what your thoughts are in terms of like those bullish and bearish divergences, whether or not
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
yeah,
Like I think that plays a importance, and it's more psychological because like the more
yeah,
people that rely on something like that, then the more likely it is to come true. So
yeah,
I think there is some truth on that. But
yeah.
as
It's
far as as far as like basing your whole strategy on like, oh, it's oversold, you gotta take profits, or oh, it's overbought, you gotta buy,
yeah.
or vice versa. I mean, if it's overbought, you gotta sell. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because you can stay overbought for like forever, you can stay oversold for forever. But if you,
Exactly.
yeah, if you look at it, like the RSI over the last like the 12 weeks or so, you can actually see like a little bit of a hidden bullish divergence on the
Yeah,
RSI
you
where,
can.
yeah, it got cooled down a lot, and then next thing you know, probably just kind of shot up. So I think we're ready to run. I just don't know when it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be a few more weeks, or maybe even closer to the election or whatnot, whatever the catalyst is going to be. But what I really like to see though is even though Bitcoin keeps falling, like there's still many alts that are not making like lower lows too. So that's good. Like even like Ethereum, if we go here real quick,
Yeah,
we can see that this is the log scale Gann. We can see that it's still kind of doing something similar and
yeah,
is trying to maintain this bottom green arc as support too. So there's lots of similarities between all the altcoins and
yeah.
Bitcoin. And essentially, they're all holding levels. And if they're going to keep holding levels, then this is not bearish at all.
Yeah, I think a few weeks ago we had that big dump, and then I think that was like really the back test for a lot of altcoins. Ever since then, I almost feel like the altcoins have been like stronger than Bitcoin, actually. I think
Yeah,
post
recently, yeah.
halving. Yeah, it's very interesting. Post halving it actually seemed like it's stronger than Bitcoin, which actually has been seen previously. But
Yeah.
no, thank you so much. I think we're getting close to time, but this is awesome, man. We should do it again at some point if that's okay with you.
Yeah, for sure. I'm
Yeah.
always I'm always here.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe you can ask me questions next time, or maybe not. I don't know. I hope I wasn't interrogating you too much.
No, it was great. I had a great time. Thanks for having me
Yeah,
on.
this was
All
awesome.
right,
Thank
thanks.
you so much.
Thanks, Kat.
Yeah, yeah. Bye.
Bye.